Genuine confusion and shock yesterday morning as that news began to eke out. I was sitting in this lobby briefing with the Prime Minister's official spokesman, and I'll tell you what, the number of journalists from a number of publications who had to ask several times, sorry, is this actually what has happened? Are we hearing this absolutely correctly? Because, of course, there was a wide expectation because the bar for that first fixed penalty notice was so low, many people thinking that the first event didn't really reach the level of...
Remind us which one that was.
And, of course, that was the cake in a Tupperware box in the Cabinet Room on the 19th of June 2020. It happened to be the Prime Minister's birthday. It was one stage into lockdown easing. It was before a meeting in the Cabinet Room, and many people were particularly surprised that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, received a fixed penalty notice for that event because he hadn't been embroiled in any of the other partygate news. So it came as a big surprise yesterday when nothing further seemed to have happened. But I suppose we need to take a step back and look at the context in which this is all happening, because there were various different stages of rules, and I think everyone can remember how much the rules kept changing in this fairly confusing way, and the different events that happened at different times happened under different stages of lockdown easing, different stages of key worker liberties and everything else. And of course we were also talking about a sprawling complex of hundreds of offices, hundreds of people, and many different buildings all interconnected. This wasn't just an investigation into number 10 Downing Street. This was an investigation into the whole complex that spans all of Whitehall. So it's easy to see how some party that might have involved a small number of civil servants in a different part of the complex may not have incurred fines upon someone in the heart of number 10.
Yeah, what are you hearing about how uncomfortable Sue Gray's report next week will be for the Prime Minister? And surely if he's still there after all of this, he can survive whatever that's going to throw at him.
I think the mood in Westminster now is that the Prime Minister is fairly safe, that he's weathered the worst of it, although no one knows what's in the Sue Gray report apart from Sue Gray herself. Number 10 have not seen it. It's an entirely operationally independent report, and Number 10 will receive it next week, we're told, and when they receive it, they will publish it in full and unredacted. And there are now fairly substantial claims that Sue Gray is keen to include photographs within this report, that Sue Gray is keen to name senior civil servants and politicians in this report. She is reportedly surprised that Simon Case, the head of the civil service, escaped without a single fine when he's been implicated in some of these events. There is a bit of a story bubbling up in some of the press that there were some events attended by various people, some of whom who were at that event got a fixed penalty notice and others didn't. Now, whether this is to do with the amount of time they were there for, their understanding of why they were there, or something more to do with whether they were able to have pretty good legal representation in this whole process. That's an open question. But certainly a lot more questions remain. But I think that this will be fairly closed by next week, because when Sue Gray's report finally comes out, when we've poured through all that detail, the Prime Minister has committed to making a statement in the House of Commons, answering all of these questions, setting out exactly what went on, and finally, for the first time in 6 months, he will not be able to answer a single question from the opposition benches with the words, "We have to wait for Sue Gray."
Yeah.